Hi, and welcome to Epiphanies. I'm Reverend Jessie Brandon, and I'm a life cycle coach as well as a metaphysical minister. And I have the opportunity to bring two of my loves together, books and people. So I'd like you to get a cup of tea, settle back in your favorite chair, and listen, because we'll be talking about books and all kinds of exciting things. Today, we're looking at The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. And she says, let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. So Dr. Brené Brown is a research professor and a thought leader on vulnerability, courage, worthiness, and shame. And this is about the lifelong journey from what will people think to I am enough. And on that note, I'm going to invite my guest Jean on, and we'll talk some more about the book. Jean, come on in.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm awesome.
Yes, you are. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, my pleasure. Have a seat, get comfortable, make yourself some tea, and I'm going to read my viewers your bio. So this is Jean Leggett, and when Jean first came to Barrie, she started out as a stand-up comic and doing laughter yoga, which she still does, but she has a much more, we'll say important, but and bigger role. She is the starter of what I call the Free Hugs Club, and that's something I've been a part of. It's where I got my purple hairs from Jean, and she is a personal and business coach. And here's the big thing. She's a CEO of a special video game company, and we're going to talk about that in just a little while. So how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much. You know what? I've been thinking a lot about your show and thinking about the impact that storytelling has on each and every one of us, because it's a very big, storytelling is a huge part of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Well, I absolutely, as you know, love books and love people. So this is just wonderful for me. So tell me, why did you choose The Gifts of Imperfection?
You know, I was trying to dig down deep and think about what are the books that impacted me, because that was what you were looking for. Mm-hmm. And there were two books in particular. One I couldn't find to share with you, and it impacted me quite a bit because it's called Mother, Father, Death, and it's about children of deaf adults figuring out what their identities are all about. And as a child of deaf adults, it was instrumental for me. Mm-hmm. But then I was thinking, okay, what's another book that's really impacted me? And The Gifts of Imperfection is particularly important because prior to what I'm doing now, I did a lot of work doing the laughter yoga, the joyful mindfulness. I had the Joy Bootcamp program that I was running, and I was looking for something solid to teach workshops on that was fundamental to my core beliefs. Mm-hmm. And that's where The Gifts of Imperfection come in. I mean, she has her basic tenets talking about courage and compassion, digging deep, living a meaningful life. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that this book helped me kick off my coaching career and my speaking career in a big way.
Really?
Yeah.
It had that big an impact?
It did.
So how did it kick? Can you explain how it kicked it off?
Sure. I mean, you could kind of say that I cribbed off of Brené Brown and integrated what I already felt about, like, my worldview. Mm-hmm. And I integrated what she was talking about, and I started developing these like day-long workshops and working in the deaf community and teaching her principles. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just even reconnecting with that book. And I follow Brené on her social media. Her latest book that just came out, which is Braving the Wilderness, which I brought with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I said
and I will lend it to you.
Yay!
But I have it in ebook, hardcover, and Audible now.
Ah.
Because it's quite an experience to listen to her read that to you. Mm-hmm. Oh. Right? And everything that she talks about, and maybe I have like a girl crush on her, a leader crush, or whatever you want to call it. But what I love about Brené's work is it's all about staying authentic to who you are. Mm-hmm. And showing up, doing the work, and not letting other people get in your head.
That's huge. That's huge.
It's huge and it's hard.
Yeah.
right? We've all had our haters. We've all had people make comments on what we do because they might not understand what we do, or they want to control, and because they're so sad and unhappy in their lives that they want to control our lives, and they don't get to do that.
Yep, that's right.
And that's what she talks about.
You got to keep your vibration up.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So what else can you tell me? Have you ever passed this on to other people?
I haven't passed my copy on. I'm very protective of my books. My lending you my book is a big deal.
Yeah.
I will chase you down. But I recommend it all the time. It's
cool.
one of like the 4 books that I recommend to people. Another one is Codependent No More,
I love
which is
that
Melody
one.
Beattie.
Yes, I love Melody
her
Beattie.
stuff is really phenomenal. She has like I don't know if you've ever seen it. She has a 365-day book
The Language
meditation.
of Letting Go.
That's the one.
I have had it in my life almost since she put it out.
That one I have actually gone out and bought multiple copies and given to people.
Yeah.
It's
so fabulous. I just gave mine to my daughter.
right. I went to a used bookstore and there was like 3 copies. I took all 3.
Oh, wow.
And like that's a really fantastic book. And I think more people, we need to make more daily practice and habit out of our mindfulness. And here I am slowing down my speaking. We're so busy in the electronic world that when we connect for books and connect for reading and connect for mind expansion, that's when we're most alive.
Yes, I would agree. I read all the time, and it just fills my heart with joy. I love books. So, excuse me, totally hear you. So, if there was one message that you wanted the viewers to get from this book that may inspire them to go out and purchase it, what would you say?
I think the title says it all. The Gifts of Imperfection. And quite often we don't want to put ourselves out there until we feel like we're perfect. That shows up in every aspect of my life. I'm going to make a general assumption that it happens for a lot of people.
Yeah,
that they don't want to be seen until everything is shiny and perfect. And guess what? Everybody has those imperfections. And if we just like stood up and owned them and really dug deep, what is important to me and what is the meaning in my life, then who cares? And that is the gift, accepting that we have imperfections and just like barreling through with it.
Yeah, that's. I just spoke at Mo Mondays and I was talking about being vulnerable, which is Brené Brown, and
the queen of vulnerability. Right?
Yes, yeah. I absolutely love her talk on that. I think it's on TEDx. That's it. You were just on TEDx.
I was.
Yes, I forgot to tell people about that. No, we're going to come back to that. Don't forget. Yes. So. That's what I was talking about, was being vulnerable, because I think that allows other people. It's like holding space for them so that they can let down their guard a little bit and just be them. And if they don't know who that is, then to help them find them.
And I think, going back to this particular book, it also helped me be a better coach and a better friend. Because when you are comfortable in your own vulnerability, there's something, I don't know, for some reason, I've always had that knack growing up where people would sit with me, complete strangers, and they would feel safe to tell me things. They would feel safe to be vulnerable with me. And I don't think you don't always get that with everybody.
No.
And so there's something about that vulnerability piece, that compassion and connection piece, that I think a lot of us could use more practice with.
Yes, I absolutely agree. The other thing that I just love about her and about, everybody that I know, this chapter is cultivating gratitude and joy. Yeah, letting go of scarcity and fear of the dark. And she says, in many ways, this research has not only taught me new ways to think about how I want to live and love, it's taught me about the relationship between my experiences and choices. One of the most profound changes in my life happened when I got my head around the relationship between gratitude and joy. I always thought that joyful people were grateful people. I mean, why wouldn't they be? Anyway, she said, after spending countless hours collecting stories about joy and gratitude, 3 powerful patterns emerged. People who describe themselves as joyful actively practice gratitude. And both joy and gratitude were described as spiritual practices. And they were bound to a belief in human interconnectedness and a power greater than us. And then people were quick to point out the differences between happiness and joy as the difference between a human emotion that's connected to circumstances and a spiritual way of engaging with the world that's connected to practicing gratitude. And I know that for me, a gratitude practice has changed so much. What about you?
That is a fantastic question. There are still people here in our town that call me Joyful Jean because of the work that I was doing with Joy Bootcamp and the Joy Mindfulness. And the thing that I was trying to get across to people is joy and happiness are two very different things. I will be happy when ... When I get a raise, when I move into a bigger house, when, you know, my debt is paid off, I will be happy when. It's conditional, right?
Yes.
And when you achieve that condition, then all of a sudden you're on to the next thing that I will be happy when. Joy is a choice.
Yes.
And, you know, we're Facebook friends.
Yes.
And I currently am running a hashtag 90 Days of Gratitude on Facebook.
Yes.
And I just encourage people to join with me because, you know, 5 years ago, it's been 5 years since we moved back to Barrie, my husband and I, and that was a result of his nearly dying while we were living in Dallas.
Right.
And we had already been doing daily gratitude practices for, I think, about 2 years leading up to that. Gratitude is so important because even on your worst days, if you find something to be thankful for, whether it's a good cup of tea or somebody let you in front in traffic, just there are little human things to be grateful for that we overlook. And
Absolutely.
when I was doing my coaching full time with my clients, one of the things that I insisted on is, listen, if you work on a gratitude journal and write 5 things a day that you're thankful for, you will notice a huge difference in 3 weeks. And around that 3-week mark, they would always come back and they'd say, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, you're training your brain to find the things that you're thankful for. And if you're not looking for something, how are you supposed to find it?
Exactly. Exactly. One of the things that I've learned for myself is I used to be a little bit of a road rager, no laughing. There are people who know I was a big road rager. And what I do now is I find gratitude in the things that people are doing that used to irritate me. I will actively seek how to be grateful about it.
Wow. Well, you know what? I don't think I'm there yet, but I will tell you that occasionally when I'm in traffic and I'm frustrated, because I tend not to do a lot of driving because like going to Toronto drives me crazy, right? It's bonkers, it's maddening, it's near accident causing, and I'll be so frustrated. And then my husband, he'll just go ha 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 ha, and he'll start the laughter yoga.
Yeah,
because he knows that will change my mood, and because it's been proven to change people's moods.
Right.
I'll just go shut up. So it doesn't always work, but. Yeah, I had a particularly difficult instance in my business earlier this summer, and it was awful. Like it threw me off guard for 5 whole weeks, and I was not a very happy person to be around. The gratitude that come out of it is that I found an even better solution to my problem, and it prepared me because, you know what, every pebble in your shoe is just a reminder that you're climbing a hill and there's going to be loose pebbles. This is a horrible analogy. I don't know where it's going. But that also that you're going to be facing bigger rocks, I guess is the thing, right? Yeah. And if you built up your tolerance to little things that bother you, then when you get to the big things, they're not going to bother you as much.
Right. On that note, we're going to take a quick break, so let my viewers go get another warm up on their tea. And you're watching Epiphanies. I'm Reverend Jessie Brandon. My guest is Jean Leggett, and we'll be back in just a moment, so stay tuned. Thanks. and welcome back to Epiphanies. Thanks for coming back. I'm here today talking about The Gifts of The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown.
That's actually quite perfect.
Yeah, there you go. And I'm talking to Jean Leggett. Now, Jean, I want to know about you. Who are you in our community?
Oh, I am many things to many people. Like you said, I did the laughter yoga. I still do stand-up comedy. I got asked to do a set tonight, and I was like, my head is somewhere else right now.
Aw.
So for the last 3 years, I've been doing something that I never expected to be doing. Mm-hmm. I run a video game company.
Yes, I know. Do
right?
tell. Yeah.
Right? And it's a special video game company. I mean, when I say video games, I get like a range of responses from people. Mm-hmm. Recently I got this person who walked past our booth at a trade show. She went, "I hate video games." And we were at a writer's conference. And I was like, "That's nice." And so I said, "Thank you." She stood there to tell me why she hated video games. What we are trying to do is we are trying to create a space for storytellers. Mm-hmm. Again, it's all about the stories, right?
Yeah.
Creating a space for storytellers to be able to transform their ideas, their thoughts, their novels, their short stories into a story-based video game. So it's not a video game that you would see in the traditional sense. It really is book meets game.
Yeah.
And so that's where I've focused all of my energy. And it's, all of the skills that I've learned from doing the self-development work and the coaching work that I've done all comes into my role as the CEO. I'm currently the executive producer on a big game that we're working on.
You have not said the name of the company.
No, it's One More Story Games.
There we are.
But if you go to bookmeetsgame.com, it's a shortcut right to our website. And I love what we do because in a very different way, we are allowing people to be vulnerable in their stories. Can I talk about the project that I'm working on?
Absolutely, yeah.
So a couple of years ago, we were vulnerable and we went out to Los Angeles for the same writers conference, actually. So it's a traveling writers conference. And we approached a woman, an author by the name of Charlaine Harris. Mm-hmm. And some people might know her. She wrote the Sookie Stackhouse series that HBO adapted as True Blood. Mm-hmm. She recently had a TV series this summer, Midnight Texas, and she sold over 36 million novels. That didn't even faze me when I went up to her and said, "Have you ever thought about turning your books into games?" And she had tried that once before and it didn't work out. And I said, "Oh, is that something I could help you with?" And that literally is her response, "That would be lovely, dear." And so here we are 3 years later and we're in the development. And the series that we picked up from her it's called the Lily Bard series. Mm-hmm. And it's, again, everywhere I go, we seem to be doing stuff outside of the norm. Mm-hmm. And this series is about a woman who's experienced a brutal, she was abducted, she was assaulted multiple times, and she was tortured and then left for dead, and she had to kill her abuser. That is just like a snippet of who she is inside of a traditional murder mystery series. And so the way that we've chosen to honor that character in our game is for the players to unravel the mystery of her PTSD and her trauma as they are unraveling the mystery within the game. We're tackling subjects that most people don't even touch, right, especially in video games.
Yes, that's so fabulous. And I know from speaking to you and listening to you outside of my show that you are focused on having strong female characters in these games.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that because there just isn't enough, if there's any.
Well,
really.
And imagine if a quarter or imagine if a half of the video game studios decided to create content that was focused towards their female demographic. We have a game, it's a half-hour game that recommended for like 10 and up. And it's a space adventure, and I think there's 7 characters, they're all female. And it's so funny because I watch little boys play the game. They'll sit down, they'll play the game, and they'll be like, "Wow, that was really fun." And I'm thinking, I wonder if they noticed that they were all girls in the game. Mm-hmm. Like, we are the ones that are putting too much focus on if we just put it in front of people and just without judgment and just let them experience it. Mm-hmm. So, but at the end of the day, what we want to do is create meaningful stories and have people connect in an emotional way to the work that we're creating.
Right.
You know, if we wanted to just make money, we could have been doing something different a long time ago. What we want to do is create lasting change.
Right, and that's so, it's so progressive. I mean, it's so amazing that this is the work that you and Blair, your husband, are doing. So that's really cool.
Thank you.
So what else are you doing? What is Jean doing in the community? You know what I love? One of my fondest memories is the night we went out before Valentine's Day and used that red paint and sprayed on the snow. It was so wonderful.
You know what? I do miss that, Jean. You know, the carefree, had like, you know, lunch meetings with people anywhere, and now my whole life is 24/7, it's this one project. And so I haven't really stepped out of the community to do a lot of stuff, although we do occasionally do the work that we do with the kids and help them make games. I do speaking engagements, so I am still out there inspiring people with our story.
Right. And you just talked at TEDx. We were going to come back to that, so tell me a little bit about that.
So the TEDx talk was in Collingwood. It was earlier in October. And the title of my talk is What 10-Year-Olds Taught Us About Our Tech Startup. Because, you know, when you start a business, you kind of have this idea, and if you were to write out a business plan, you're going to throw it out the window shortly thereafter anyways. And we had this vision. So women over 30 are one of the larger segments of the games consumer population.
Really?
Women over 50 is the fastest growing segment.
Holy,
and they like story-based games. That's you know, strategy. That's why we chose Charlene and all of these things. But what we decided to do 2.5 years ago were to run these summer camps. It was just supposed to be one with 4 kids. And we, you know, I asked my friends, hey, do you have some kids between this age that would like to come and spend a week with us? We made some games. And we learned a lot about the software. We learned that we had some buggy software, and the guys, the team fixed it right away. And then we also learned over 8 classes over the summer, because these are week-long camps. We learned a lot about ourselves. We learned a lot about kids, because no pets, no plants, no children. If it can't feed itself, it can't live in our house. But more importantly, we realized that while we had made the software for adult writers to create adult content, kids are dying for this kind of engagement. They want to be storytellers too. They're natural storytellers. Yeah. And nobody out there is giving them a place to have their voice. You know, so it was, Do you want to hear how I opened my TEDx talk?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I walk on stage, and I'm totally comfortable on stage. Like, stage is my second home. And I walk out on stage and I say, your software sucks. This is buggy. Don't you have spell check? Out of the mouth of babes. You know, they say there are 3 things that will always tell you the truth: drunk people, children, and yoga pants.
Perfect.
So that's how I open, and then I just dive deeper into, you know, the work that we did with the kids over the summer, and also, like, we worked with 8-year-old girls. When Microsoft asked us to come and teach, I thought, just say yes, we'll figure out how. And we did, and we ended up doing something very interesting and fun with these girls. And again, it's about pushing yourself further and further and having the confidence to live in that space of imperfection. This might be imperfect, but I'm going to do it anyways. Yes. And those 8-year-olds just blew our minds, right? And it also proved that what we were doing is still on the right track.
Yeah. That's so perfect. Really good. So, when do you think you're going to have time for more Jean? Because you know what? We miss you out there.
I miss me. I'm hoping that once this particular game launches with the Charlene Harris project, that my mental resources will be freed up, because I have been thinking that I want to do some more stand-up comedy. I would love to write, I have plans to write my memoirs to date, because I want to talk about our startup journey. You know, before the last 5 years, we always worked for other people where we were not entrepreneurs. And we've learned so much. I mean, we've raised $500,000. That just doesn't, not everybody has that opportunity to do that.
That's right.
And we've reached really high places and done some exciting things. I want to write my book of snarky romantic haiku.
Yes, I think that would be awesome.
Dishes in the sink. Do I look like your mother? Load the damn machine. So I miss having that fun.
Yeah.
But I will say that I get to have fun in the games. The sarcasm and the little Jean wits, I'm putting those in the game. So there is still me out there.
Yeah.
It's just in a different form at the moment.
That's right. That's right. Well, I just want to let you viewers know that I would welcome any emails that involve questions around Jean, the book, The Gifts of Imperfection, anything that you want to ask us. Please email me at jessie@jessiebrandon.ca, and I'll bring it up in other I was going to say sessions, like you're coaching me here. Anyways, you know what I mean. Email me, ask your questions, we'll talk about it. Jean, I just want to ask you one more question, and I hope I don't catch too far off guard. I'd like to know if there is an epiphany that stands out for you in your life.
That I am much more full of grace than I ever thought. I never considered myself a graceful person. And I don't mean like elegant or, do you know what it is? To me, grace is the ability to get through something that's very difficult and just be at peace with it and have strength and courage. And, having nearly lost Blair a few years ago and having gone through some really difficult situations, I was kind of stunned by my ability to get through those and not lose it and just be like, yeah, it happened. Okay.
Yeah, now we go forward.
Now we go forward.
Well, Jean, thank you so much for taking the time to come on Epiphanies. I've really enjoyed your visit. And thanks to my viewers for staying with us. And we'll be back next week with new books and new guests. So thanks for listening. Jean, I just really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.